Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the April 18th board meeting of the Yakima School District. It's so nice to see a lot of people interested in policy and governance. Before we begin, I would like to remind you, we do have translation services available from Andromeda Interpreting Services. If you are in person in this meeting tonight and you need translation, we have devices you can use. Please check in with Barb for a translating device. It's Barb right here. We also offer live streaming options for this meeting. If you are tuning into the live stream, there is a Spanish live streaming link to tune into these services. You can find that on the website. There are two options this evening for public comment. The first option is for comment on agenda items only, and the second option, toward the end of the meeting, is for any other topic. There are two items to sign if you would like to speak tonight, the sign-in form itself and a guidelines form, and those are both up front. If you happen to be interested in any past meetings, you can find a link on our webpage to the YSD YouTube channel to view past meetings that were recorded and posted there. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Here.
Director Rice?
Here.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Here.
Vice President Villanueva?
Here.
President Walker?
Here. And now Mr. Beckett will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we'll have a video of selected students presenting the Yakima Land Acknowledgement.
Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation.
The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres.
Across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grand, Kittitas, Cliticat, and Yakima counties. Today we honor the Native people who are tied to the land through history, legends, and cultures.
We acknowledge their descendants who live in the world today.
We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial. An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect.
Any step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture.
It also honors the truth.
As a school district, we'll continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Thank you. And now we have a number of recognitions we'd like to make this evening. I believe I need the list. We have a number of athletes and students involved in activities from winter sports and activities. And if they're here tonight, we would like to read your name. And when your name is read, we have certificates for you. So if you want to come up and you'll swing around the board and shake the board's hands, and then you'll receive your certificate. Okay. Okay, we're going to begin with Ramon Mendoza, wrestling from Davis High School. Congratulations. Let me be a little more specific about why Ramon is being recognized. This is the award for the National Electrical Contractors Association and Brotherhood of Electrical Workers are honoring students for demonstrating superior balance in academics, athletics, and community involvement. So this is not just an athletic award, this is an award for doing all of those things well. Next up, receiving the same award is Mackenzie Clemens, who is on the bowling team at Eisenhower High School. And Mackenzie's not here tonight, but her coach is, so congratulations to her coach. Also from Davis High School, with a Technology Student Association Robot Challenge, Andres Gutierrez. This way. Yeah. Never been on a reception line before, huh? Yeah. Next up is Amalia Pham, Davis High School. Technology Award for Solar Sprint, first place. Congratulations. And we also have Allison Dorn, Davis High School. Solar Sprint, first place team. And their coach is David Bray. I remember you when you followed around the Larson Gallery. Okay. Also from winter extracurricular activities, National History Day Regionals, first place, Alicia Reyes, Davis High School. Thank you for your work and effort. Keep going. Next up, we have Javier Ruiz, Davis High School. First place in historical paper. Congratulations. Next up, we have Xander Sanchez Hankins, dragster design. Congratulations. And we have Yahir Palacios Sanchez. Also dragster design. Congratulations. Amaya Pham, Essays in Technology. Was B your father? I knew him in middle school. We may have to get that to you later. Yeah, we'll get you. Peter Whitney, Flight Endurance, Davis High School. He was in my advisory at Franklin. Next up, also for flight endurance, Braden Platt, Davis High School. Congratulations, Braden.
This one done?
Oh, no, that's the next one up. And finally, with on-demand video from Davis High School, Julius Aguilar Munguia. It's encouraging to see so many of our technology students receiving this recognition. And now we have some winter sports recognition for boys wrestling from Davis High School, Isai Perez. Congratulations. Also in boys wrestling from Davis High School, Jacob Alcala. Congratulations. And from Davis High School Wrestling, Miguel Galvez. Congratulations. And for women's wrestling, from Davis High School, Savannah Espinoza. Congratulations. And in women's wrestling from Davis High School, Gracie Pham. And from girls wrestling at Davis High School, Gabriela Sanchez.
You missed one.
Okay. Okay. Congratulations. And from Davis High School bowling, we have Layla Hall. These students were all top 8 or above placers at the state tournament. Congratulations. And we have a women's wrestler from Eisenhower High School, Shaylin Spino, or Spino. Spino. Correctly, I think it's Spino, is that correct? Congratulations. And we have one more award winner for the superior balance in academics, athletics, and community involvement, and that's Sarah Rodriguez from Davis Basketball.
Coach Akil is here.
Okay, and coach is here, Mr. White.
Do you want to ask if anyone else showed up?
Yeah. Congratulations, Coach. Now, were there any other athletes or coaches that showed up tonight that we missed checking in? Okay, congratulations to all of you for representing your school and our district so well. And did you want to get a group picture?
I actually got very authentic smiley pictures.
You've got them already, okay. So you are certainly welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, those of you that are interested in policy and governance. But if you'd like to be excused, many of you have homework or you might have other sports that you're practicing for, so you're welcome to leave, if either one, so. Oh, we're going again. So how many of you guys wrestled at the Westburg Invitational? You didn't go to the Westburg this year?
You're going to be seeing us for another 2 years, hopefully. We're all sophomores.
Are y'all sophomores? Okay. Okay, we need to move on with our agenda, please. So, thank you for coming. We'd like to take a few minutes of a meeting to honor people that are either past employees or students who have passed away in the past few weeks. So tonight we are honoring the memories of Glenn Theisfeld, who was a longtime maintenance worker in the district, Doug Cairns, who was a longtime teacher at Wilson Middle School and Eisenhower High School in music and science, and Phoebe Oliver is a student that we lost within the past couple weeks. So if you would join me in taking a moment of silence, please, to recognize these individuals. Thank you. Thank you. And now items of board interest. Do we have any updates from members of the board?
I have one. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Just a reminder to board members, we are currently in the that time of year where we submit legislative proposals for consideration at General Assembly in September. That window is open right now. It began yesterday, and it closes on on May 12th. So I'd like to ask for some time on a future meeting between now and May 12th, where we could discuss potential issues that you all would like to perhaps submit as a legislative proposal for this next year. And then on top of that, we are down to the last few days of our legislative session this year. It's scheduled to end on the 23rd, so I think that's next Monday, maybe. Right now, the legislature is deeply enmeshed in budget discussions. I don't believe that that the final budget has been agreed upon yet. Once that happens, my understanding is that there will be no other amendments or anything added to it. Whatever comes out of the reconciliation process is what it is. And since the last day of the session is the 23rd, they really don't have too many more days to take care of that. The advocates for all of the education associations, including WASDA, are currently focusing on their top priorities. And for us as school directors, that they would include special education, pupil transportation, regionalization and experience factor, and local effort assistance, or levy equalization. Some may know it by that term. Other education associations are also promoting that the Learning Assistance Program, or LAP, be included in the budget. So as we get down to this weekend, what they're going to have to let us know what the budget looks like. Failure to agree on the budget by the 23rd will require that they go into a special session, which nobody has any appetite for. So deadlines are great things, I guess. And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Thank you, Martha. Any other reports from board members? Okay, I have one that will come later under calendar and future agenda, so I'll address that then. Dr. Green has our superintendent's update, and I believe some special guests to introduce.
Thank you very much, President Walker.
Well,
All right. So I'd like to start just by acknowledging our focus on equity as a district and with a reminder of our definition, that that's the condition that would be achieved if one's group's membership no longer predicated in a statistical sense how one fares, and equity is the outcome, not just access to opportunity. In addition, I know that we didn't have the character word, so I just want to make sure that we recap that for this month. In April, it's adaptable, which is capable of being or becoming adapted, able to adjust to new conditions. And in Spanish, it would be adaptable, capaz de adaptarse o de ser adaptado, capaz de ajustarse a nuevas condiciones. The trait is community and globally connected, and in Spanish, it would be conectado con la comunidad y el mundo. So, speaking about being adaptable, I think we should just go right into recognizing our friends here from Japan. It has just been a wonderful kickoff. I know that if I continue to talk, I'm going to steal some thunder, so I will pass this immediately to Kirsten, and then I can have any closing comments if there's something else I would like to add. But we certainly want to welcome our friends. Okay.
Podium. Ooh. Well, I do have a bit of pomp and circumstance, but first, just a bit of a personal gesture, if I may. With my grandchildren, we have a rule in our family that when I see something that I'm inspired to buy for one of them, I buy it. I don't have to get all one at the same time, but I will get something that I'm inspired by. So tonight, before we talk more formalities, there is an assistant superintendent among us who has a love for something that comes from Japan. So with my colleagues in Japan, they have brought something special and a little Hello Kitty for Assistant Superintendent Rodriguez. Did you?
Oh, wow.
She is a fanatic about Hello Kitty, so straight from Japan, Dr. Rodriguez. Well, as you all know, we have engaged in a Japanese exchange. We are at about 50 years right now, so we are embarking on the third generation of Yakima people to participate in the exchange, and that was evident tonight at the Japanese Cultural Show at Eisenhower. We have 69 students here from Japan, and we have my adult colleagues here, which I am going to let them introduce themselves, headed up by a group leader. We have an excursion tomorrow to Seattle, where we will take two buses, because there are 80 of us, that will be going to Pike Place Market, going to a Mariner game, and going to the University of Washington, says this Coug, so show mercy. Next week, we have an excursion to Leavenworth. While the students are here, they are attending Eisenhower, Davis, and East Valley high schools, with the majority attending Davis and Eisenhower. So they are having a wonderful time. I want to publicly thank our 35 host families in the Yakima community that are hosting the exchange students. So I will have Devron Foster, who is me in Japan, coordinating this exchange. And you can tell, maybe optics, is that he is not Japanese. He is from Washington, D.C., but has lived in Japan for a very long time, married to a Japanese woman, and has a beautiful Japanese toddler. Yeah. And so he will be our translator and introduce. But I'm just pleased that we're having such a wonderful exchange and appreciate the board's support as always.
Hello, everyone, and thank you again for having us. We're really happy to be here, and you know, really, really warm welcome, and our kids looks like they have a really good time. So thank you very much. I'd like to introduce first our group leader, Mr. Tomokazu Saito. He's a math teacher at our school, and then our other homeroom teacher is a Kazaki Yoshida. And he's a PE teacher and the baseball coach for our school. So, and also we have Naoko, sorry, Omori and Emori, and she is a fantastic travel agent who's makes sure we get to where we need to be on time and we don't leave any kids behind. So that's the big one. Okay. And yeah, we just want to say thank you very much. We brought a few things for some of the board members that are from our school. And I don't know who I should give them to, so.
Well, hey, hang on one moment, because we do have a mug that we would like to share with Mr. Saito. If you would come up, please. To commemorate our partnership with our logo.
Again, thank you for coming and have a great trip with your students.
So as they depart, I'll make a few more comments. So we personally have 4 of the exchange students staying in our home. It's just been a tremendous opportunity, a tremendous experience. It's just wonderful to see the world come closer together. We know that we've been living in this pandemic world and this virtual world for so long that sometimes we forget how nice it is to connect in person, especially with people from other cultures and other languages. And it just has been very heartwarming to have the young men representing their school and their community and their country so well in just the first 4 days that we've had them at our home. I would encourage anybody that has the opportunity in the future to consider hosting, and also then the opportunity for our students to go to Japan this summer, which is going to be just a wonderful opportunity for them to experience exactly what our Japanese friends are experiencing here, going to a different place and learning a different language and being out of their comfort zone, which has been something that is nice to see with our young people and having them persevere through the challenges and barriers of language and culture. So on to the next item, which is the just information for the board on a Davis Auditorium tour. So I know that there is some interest in the renovation project at Davis Auditorium. So I have reached out to provide that opportunity. It will be from 10 a.m. to 11:30 for those who are able to make the tour, and that will be on the 27th of this month. So if you can make that, please let us know whether we have to have a quorum or if we would just have a few of you take advantage of that opportunity. But that is out there. And any questions about the Davis Auditorium tour? As far as I know, it's still on pace for this summer, so contrary to any kind of rumors out there, it's on pace for this summer. And I guess we'll know more on the 27th, right? The last item for the superintendent update is to inform the board of a opportunity that we want to present or make available for you on a regular basis. When we met with Mary Alice Huschel, we talked about monitoring what is happening around the district, and part of that process is to really get those opportunities in front of you and recognizing that we have a wide variety of occupations and we have some people that are retired. There may be different times where you could attend, and we're obviously trying to really be more efficient with our meetings to free up some of the time for you to really know what's happening in the district from a firsthand perspective. So you can see on the screen what we have put together, and by we I mean Barb. So what Barb has put together is a YSD board superintendent calendar. And as you look at that calendar for any date, that will soon be compiled with all of the events that are happening around the district that you could attend. If it's in green, it's completely open and available. If it's in red, then that means it is full. So to speak, if you look at Tuesday the 25th, Director Rice and I have a meeting, so that's a one-on-one meeting that we have scheduled. So nobody else is invited to that. That's our one-on-one. Yeah. And you can see that President Walker and I are scheduled for the 27th, and President Walker and I will be meeting that day. But as you look at, Community STEAM Night, there's the opening to Greece. Greece starts this Thursday at Davis High School. There are opportunities that we want you to be aware of, and we recognized through that process of working with you as a board and knowing that we're not doing as good of a job as we can of providing time, but opportunity. And we want you to just know that those opportunities are out there, and we will continue to keep you appraised, but you could check on your own because you will have access to that calendar. Barb, could you just walk us through and go ahead and, if you want to say a few words just on how to walk through that? No? Okay. So the way that you would do this is on the left. Can you just show you got it?
Oh, yeah, I can
Okay.
tell them how to do it.
Okay.
Well, I have to send them an invite to this calendar.
Okay.
So we were going to work that out with Andy first.
Okay.
But they'll be able to have viewing permissions to this calendar. They won't be able to add anything to the calendar or not. And again, like Superintendent Green said, if it's red, then it's not something that you can join. But if it's green, just send me an email. As soon as I have 2 or more, I'll turn it red, and then you'll know that it's full. If you really want to go, then we can make a quorum for it.
And we'll make sure that those events, that if you want to go to those events, we'll get you in the door to those events. So it looks like we have 2 full days, the 25th, 26th. If you want to spend all day long at the state track meet, you're welcome to do so. And you can stay as little or as long as you would like at any of these events. Are there any questions or comments for the board? I'm hopeful that this is something that you would find valuable in knowing some of the events that are happening. Yes? Good. So we are, as I mentioned, we're continuing to compile that. So all of our office managers, kudos to our office managers around the district for going through their individual calendars and letting us know what is currently still scheduled and making adjustments as we go throughout the year. So again, the desire is to have you look at that calendar any night and you're just like, hey, I don't know what to do. I need a date night. You just, hey, let's go to a STEAM event. Let's go to an open house somewhere. So there's lots of opportunities, never a dull moment. And with that, I'll pass it back to President Walker.
Trevor, I do have a question on the calendar, like one-to-one. So I know your calendar fills up fast, so I guess the problem that I'm having is trying to match my calendar with yours, and then, I don't always get my calendar established for the year when you do, so it's just kind of trying to coordinate those two calendars so we can.
Absolutely. And there are 5 people, 6, my wife's here too, that can really bump my calendar. So you are a priority person, and I recognize that it may not be the first option, but I can tell you that Barb will rearrange my schedule to make availability for any of you.
Okay, good to hear that.
Yeah, right, Barb? Absolutely. If it's, if it can be moved, it will be moved, and if it can't, we will tell you right away and we'll get the next available opportunity. But yeah, your positions and the work that you do for the district and recognizing, the efforts that you put forth on behalf of the community, we certainly want to prioritize that.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
all right. President Walker.
Any other questions for Dr. Green before we move on? Thank you. So I will be kind of dovetailing with that topic around calendar and future agenda topics. There are a few things coming up that I want you to be aware of, and a few changes in our calendar that I want you to be aware of. Barb, does the board have this copy of okay, you'll be mailing that out to them, okay. So the first one is we are canceling the May 8th board meeting as we do not have items on the agenda. And we do have, as a reminder, we do have May 9th, the 3-hour professional learning, Zoom learning virtual session. So just keep that on your calendar if you want. I think we all need to do that one, or should be doing that one if we can. So we only have one meeting that week and one's online. Also, we will be canceling the June 12th board meeting, as that is the same evening as the Davis High School graduation ceremony. We currently do not have items scheduled for that meeting, and we do have scheduled meetings the week prior to June 12th and the week following. So Barb, again, will update the calendar to reflect those changes. Due to a medical emergency impacting Robertson Elementary administration, the board meeting scheduled to be held at Robertson on April 24th will be held at Robertson on May 1st. Okay, and this will all come out to you in writing too, so, but just. Flipping the Robertson meeting. Right. Right. And then, the board meeting that was scheduled May 1st at Central Services will not be held on April 24th. So Barb, again, will update the calendar. Now, this is one, yeah.
So we're canceling the May 8th meeting
Yes.
and the April to May 1st meeting? Yeah.
No, we will meet May 1st at Robertson.
And what about April 24th?
That will be a visit, that'll be a site here. So
That's a site
flipping
meeting
that with the
here.
board meeting
They're being
here.
flipped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
that's a
sorry,
site
I
meeting.
misunderstood. I thought you said
Yeah,
that
I
we weren't going to have the
read
board
that
meeting
wrong.
here.
We'll be meeting here on the
Okay.
24th.
My apologies.
Yeah, my apologies too. That was. It'll come out on your calendar will reflect that. These will be updated for you. So we're just flipping those two meetings is all. And then this one is not set yet, but it's a recommendation. We currently have the board retreat scheduled for August 7th, but the superintendent and I are recommending that we reschedule, if possible, for August 14th. And there are two reasons for that change. One is the administrative team has their leadership retreat scheduled for the 7th, and that cannot be moved. We're going to hold the board retreat on the 14th. Then the superintendent could be present on the 14th and participate. Also, if we were to have our board meeting on the 7th, the superintendent would not be able to kick off the leadership academy with the directors, executive directors, principals, and so on. So, because he would have to be at the board retreat. So they cannot change the date of the administrative meeting. Secondly, our superintendent will be returning from his personal time chaperoning the trip to Japan, okay, and would not be available to assure refinements for the board retreat agenda if it were held on the 7th. But on the 14th, he will be back. We can do our refinements for the meeting or for the retreat. And we're already working on the agenda for the retreat, so. Anyway, that's not something we need to decide immediately. Check your calendars, check what's going on, and see if that can work for you to have it on the 14th instead of the 7th. Okay? Works for me, except I have to get up at 3 in the morning the next day and fly to Albuquerque, but I'll make it. Okay. I think that's all I have. Oh, no, that's just the changes. Okay, we have a few other things. Just keep in mind the graduation and celebration dates are out to you. They're also on green on the calendar that you were just shown. And so again, with the graduations and commemorations, there won't be a quorum issue when you check in for that one. Excellence in Education is April 28th at Ike, and that's their awards for teachers and staff. The WASA Awards Banquet is May 4th at YV Tech, and you will be getting invitations to all of these if you haven't already. The HAP Celebration Hispanic Academic Achievement Program celebration is May 12th at YV Tech. And, okay, we've gone over the calendars. And then Superintendent Green will be at the WASA Superintendent Conference on May 1st. We do have a board meeting scheduled then, so I don't know if you're joining us by.
Yeah, I thought that may be hard to attend, so I'll do what I can to attend virtually, but I may have to assign those duties to our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Darling. I wanted the board to be aware that that's a distinct possibility. And then also just to acknowledge that you did mention the HAP celebration. We do have other celebrations that we've announced previously, Black Elegance, our Native American celebration. The reason we listed this is we had not talked about that previously, so we wanted to call attention to the HAAP, Hispanic Academic Achievers Program, and that night and flag that for you. So.
And you will be getting a list of all those award nights. Again, if they're not already, if you haven't already received invitations for those. So it fills up. And again, you're not obligated to make all of those. I mean, make the ones that you can. Okay, any other questions on calendar and agendas and so on? Okay.
I think we might have one.
Do we have one more?
Okay. I was wondering about that. So we do have one follow-up that we would ask this evening, and that is the WASA, number 7 item that's listed, WASA SCR Awards Banquet. That is May 4th at YV Tech at 5:30. That is in person after several years. So typically, it is attended by school boards around the region. It'll be held at YV Tech. We do have legislators that attend, and we also then have some recognition awards that will go out at that time. So there is a meal that's provided. It's a price that we wanted to get in front of. and make sure that we let the ESD know how many people would be in attendance on that date. So I think by tomorrow, Barb, is that what we're asking? Probably not tonight. I know you have to maybe check your calendar this evening. But if by tomorrow you could let Barb know whether you could make that date on the 4th at 5:30, it looks like. So I think that's the, yep, no, 5:30 at 4th at YB Tech. Okay? Should be an email. Okay. It's what would be a regional event. So it's our ESD, all of the districts within the ESD coming together with their boards, recognition, legislators in the area. Yeah. WASA is Washington Association of School Administrators. So represents our district level executive directors, superintendents, assistant superintendents.
I will be attending that one, so you will have representation there, if that's an issue for other folks. Okay, any other questions, comments on calendar and agenda? If not, we'll welcome Director Cooper to our fancy new podium for our financial report.
Good evening, everybody. Pleasure to be here. What was that, Trevor?
Is it on?
It is. It's green, so yes. Sorry. I am tall, and historically podiums are short. So I love podiums because I can hide behind something, but they're always not the greatest for a man of my petite stature. So, good evening. I'm Jacob Cooper, the Executive Director of Finance. I do want to talk about a little bit before I get into the meat of the report, the end of the legislative session. As Director Rice pointed out earlier, we have 5 days left before sign and die, which is the 23rd, is on this Sunday, the end of this week. We are patiently awaiting the conference budget. There is still some rather large differences between each chamber. For the most part, the differences that you should know about in your governing chair is the Senate has a much lower amount in our retirement contributions, to the tune of about $850 to $900 million. The House would like to keep the current pension rates at their current level or a bit higher, so there is some actuarial dispute on that, and they were also going to use some one-time money. So the benefit would be a lower pension contribution from the employer, so we would save some funds this next budget cycle. The downfall, as I've seen in my career, is that what often happens is when pension rates are lowered, they are dramatically increased the following fiscal year. So we will see what happens, but there is a disagreement there of about $850 to $900 million between the two chambers. Also, for your importance, there is still dispute, albeit a civil one, on special education funding and transportation. Those proverbial birds have not come to roost, and there is still significant disagreement on how much money should go into each, and we are patiently awaiting. I will say when I did the numbers on each chamber's budget, that both put us in the red by about $750,000 to $800,000, because we have to pass through the IPD, which is set at 3.7% for the year, and have some other increases that we bargained. So overall, the two budgets that I have seen and costed out are fairly stable, but then we have to also combat our declining enrollment of nearly 300 students. So I would say we are stable, and tightening our operations slowly but surely, but no major or significant reductions in the multi-millions of dollars that you're seeing across the state. So fortunately, our enrollment decline has been slow and steady and not precipitous, and we are getting some additional funds from the legislature, in part for social emotional learning or counseling, which we have already staffed up to those levels, which is a good thing. And then the IPD at 3.7, and then some changes to the special education funding formula. So I just wanted to give you a brief update on the legislative session, because it's, in the first year of the biennium, it's a long session, and a lot of things can happen. So we will keep our fingers crossed, and I will update the superintendent and you all next week on the final conference budget. Are there any questions on the legislature and our friends in Olympia? And I'll leave it at that. So highlights for this month. Again, the springtime, the business office is in full budget mode, And we have finished our staffing meetings along with Assistant Superintendent Rodriguez and HR. We have met with all the principals and departments, and so they have preliminary staffing numbers for the beginning of next year. We still have some refinement to do in a few areas, but for the most part, that work has been done, which allows us to get into the labor market early and hire those hard-to-fill positions, which always is important. I will, of course, point you to a few highlights on the deck. Though that slide looks like there's a major difference in projected versus actual enrollment, we are down. As we normally are, we see a decrease in enrollment. Because our peak, as you can see, is that October, November, those 2 months, and then we begin a slow decline. And part of that is students that are either no longer with us or have moved, graduated, or doing taking alternative opportunities to continue their education. So you'll see that, and that trend holds true in our data year over year, where we do start the year at a peak and slowly lose enrollment over the months. Cash, as you can see, the arrow is moving in the right direction, albeit stubbornly. The size of our reimbursements, we continue to move them closer to projection. So the dark blue line is our actual cash position, and the green is our projected cash. And we should see, as we have seen, a continued uptick in cash closer to projection as the year moves on. Most of that has to do with our large reimbursements in our ESSER. And so those are all about timing. And so we have, each month we draw down $1.5 to $2 million. As you can see, that gap is continuing to narrow over time. And I would anticipate that our cash balances will be much closer to the green projection up top when the year is through. Any questions on the cash balance? Budget to actual expenditures, as you can see, we are in line with historical averages. And if you'll note, as we noted several meetings before, the uptick in expenditures in, let's see, the month I'm looking at December, when we had a large payroll for retroactivity. You can see that those amounts have continued to drop and are now leveled off and very close to actuals and our historical patterns. Now, this is a very interesting slide you've been watching take shape over the last, 24 to 36 months. Will be 36 months by the end of ESSER. This is ESSER 3, the last large tranche of ESSER funds that the district has available. As you can see, the encumbrance is now firmly in place for the Discovery Early Learning, which means that that project is funded. We have a balance of about $8.5 million remaining in ESSER 3, and that's the 80% of the ESSER 3. You'll see the 20% slide shortly, leaving $8.5 million left that will allow us to round out the Davis Auditorium project and some continued work on the Discovery Early Learning Center. I'm trying to look at the biggest encumbrance that's still left, apologies. And then we'll be moving into, on this slide, the curricular portion, or as I say, Dr. Jenny Rodriguez's section. No pressure, Jenny. But these are the funds that we are utilizing for the most part to drive forward our adoptions and the associated professional development. And as you can see, there's starting to be some encumbrances there. And I believe on the timeline, we should see some of those encumbrances start in the late spring, mid-summer, early summerish. Not to put you on the spot, but that would be normally the timeline when you would see those purchase orders put forward so that we can adopt curriculum. And I believe this cycle, Jenny, what is on tap for adoption this next year? So K-12 math, correct? So the full K-12 math will be coming before you as it moves through the process. Okay. So did you, to retell that story, yeah, math will be adopted and paid for the following year. And then this year, English language arts and Spanish as well will be coming to the board for consideration and approval in the spring, late spring, next week, soon. Jenny's telling me soon. Sorry. Who's on first? Yes, that's what I want to hear. And the good news is that since that's one-time money, it is a great way to utilize it, particularly when it comes to curricular adoptions. As a content area adoption usually only comes forward, 8 to 10 years on a cycle? 7 for Dr. Jenny Rodriguez. So, any questions on ESSER?
I'd just like to interject, since you brought up the curriculum adoption. I don't think we've spoken extensively about this, but Dr. Rodriguez has done a wonderful job leading the adoption series, which is occurring, and you've heard about just in this conversation. And many of our curriculum, much of our curriculum was out of pace with being updated, and it has been just a great amount of work that she's done to bring groups together to make sure that we are entering the next several years with an updated and aligned curriculum, which is key to having our students achieve to their full capacity and have things aligned with the standards that are set forth. So thank you, Dr. Rodriguez, for that. Back to you, Jake.
Thank you, Dr. Green. I would say, from my perch, I've seen a lot of teaching and learning superintendents do grade span. So doing a whole K-12 is a Herculean effort, and that's good job. It's not an easy thing to do, to re-articulate a whole system. So from my one professional to another, I really appreciate it. Is there any other financial questions? Sorry, we got a little off track. We discussed the budget, a little bit of your monthly financial report, and some teaching and learning items. But most importantly is we patiently await the legislature. We'll obviously update you if there's any policy bills that come out that require your action, because historically there'll be some type of policy bill that will require you to act before school starts next year. That's just usually how it works. But I'm sure that the cabinet and the senior level leadership team will make you apprised of that and guide you through that as well. So is there any questions for me?
What's just a ballpark figure for total ESSER funds 1, 2, and 3?
I think it was
80?
86 or 87 million comes to mind in total.
Okay, thank you.
So at one time, it would be the largest single infusion of federal money into K-12 in history, as far as I understand it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Any other questions for Jake or comments? Okay, we have arrived at our first opportunity for public comment on agenda items. Do we have anybody signed up to comment on agenda items? General comments? It's not on the agenda item? It comes up at the next one then. Okay. Okay, next up we have approval of the consent agenda. Within the consent agenda, we have approval of minutes, notification of approval of warrants for March of 2023, approval of personnel actions, both certificated and non-certificated, approval of out-of-endorsement assignments, and the detailed budget status reports for March. Is there any need from a board member to take an item off the consent agenda? Okay, do I hear a motion? It's been moved to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Now, we have some other approvals coming up. Some of these are items that we'd already approved, but the costs of those services increased, or we had to add additional services. So the addition of the additional cost puts us above the $500,000 cost, so we need to bring those up for approval. So we'll start with Kirsten Fitterer, however, with our approval for out-of-country travel.
Good evening, Board of Directors, President Walker. This comes to you with an ask for a payment for chaperone flights with the budget from Community Relations or Communications for the Japanese travel that we just talked to you about earlier today. This is a time where we send chaperones over to Japan for the students that are coming from Eisenhower and Davis, also East Valley, just the one student from East Valley. So that's what we put forth for you, and I can answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
Kirsten, these are for costs for Yakima School District only, right?
Yes,
So
this is for 3 chaperones, the cost of their flight to Japan.
we don't have any chaperones coming from East Valley?
We do not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Kirsten? Do I hear a motion
So moved.
and a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve out-of-country travel to Japan for Yakima School District staff. Any other discussion or questions?
It would include students, right?
This is the
Staff.
request to send students, but to pay for the chaperones.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Martha.
Any other questions or clarifications? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Dr. Rodriguez, an approval to increase the current contract with Career Links.
Thank you, President Walker. I'm going to go over this in a minute, but I just wanted to, because we brought up the conversation of adoption, let you know that in the next month, you will hear from me regarding the purchase of materials for English language arts, with this kindergarten through 12th grade, and Spanish language arts, which is kindergarten through 5th grade. So I just wanted to be clear about that and give kudos to Erin Chaplin, who has done the lion's share of the work and is incoming as our new Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, so I wanted to be sure to recognize her. Tonight, I have 2 approvals for you. These are similar to ones that I've brought to you before. This is for contracted staff to provide services which are required based on students' individualized education plans. While these are both under our current threshold for funds, they are additions to prior contracts that you've approved that bring them over the threshold for fund approval for the board. The first is with Career Links. It is in the amount of an additional $265,000, which will bring the entire contract for the year to $760,000. And this is specifically for speech and language services. We continue to struggle to find qualified and licensed speech language therapists to serve our students that need those services. So we're continuing to look for creative ways to recruit more folks into that field and to work for our district in that capacity. The first one, again, is with Career Links, and we're seeking the board's approval to extend that contract for the additional $265,000. Happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we grant approval to increase the current contract with Career Links for the 22-23 school year by $265,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract increase. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And next up, you want to go ahead with your other one?
Sure, thank you, President Walker, members of the board. Exact same idea here. This one is for the Stepping Stones group in the amount of $350,000. This brings this contract to a total of $960,000 for the year. This is for classified staffing support, primarily paraeducator support for positions that we have not been able to fill this year. We are working diligently to ensure that these positions are filled for this upcoming year and in a process of staffing at this time. So I would anticipate you will see fewer of these contracts come to you for approval next year. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to increase the current contract with the Stepping Stones Group. I do have one question related to this issue. In the past, YV Tech used to run a paraprofessional training program. Does YV Tech still have a program like that? Is anybody aware of
I
them?
do not believe so, but we actually have a careers in education course that we're offering at both Davis and Ike high schools. And we have one course currently, but we are adding an additional course next year, and eventually we'll have an entire 4-year pathway to support careers in education. The goal of that program through our CTE department is that students would be able to test and receive that para certification upon graduation, and then roll right into our para to teacher certification pathway that we're also in the process of piloting this year.
Yeah, that was my thinking. Are we growing our own? And that's, I think, obviously something we need to do. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the increase in the contract. Any other questions? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And we now have arrived at our second opportunity for public comment. Do we have a commenter?
We do. Mr. Thomas McCormick?
Okay. Welcome, Mr. McCormick, and I believe you've read the protocols for commenting. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to just say that my name is Thomas McCormick, or Thomas Francis McCormick. Two things I want to mention to you. I want to express my heartfelt appreciation for helping a student with having food, Northwest Harvest. That was very nice. You get to the building to have a good variety of selection of food, so they need food, and to grow up. Many people don't appreciate that when you have a food for the children. It's just like putting food in a plant and have a plant grow up, you know. Thank you very much. The second thing I want to mention is I have a petition proclamation that it needs to be done. I could, under a Washington state law, I could wait until next year at this time, but God did not want that to happen. He wanted me to do this right tonight. No ifs and buts about it. I have a time limit. And right now, I'm Thomas Francis McCormick. It's just about ready to give Barb a very important message. I need to get it done tonight. And this is on Tuesday, February 18, 2023. And I want to make sure it gets on record. I'm giving it at 18 p.m. And after I get it done to you, I'm departing this place. This is the most important. I cannot express this important.
Thank you for your kind comments about Northwest Harvest, and thank you for coming tonight. Okay. Moving on to policy governance. We have policy 550 on educational and racial equity and reporting out from our survey. We had 3 board members respond to the Survey Monkey. In all areas, we were in compliance, and in all areas, the interpretation was considered acceptable to the board. So there are no additional comments. So I would entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the report on the Equity Policy 550. Any other questions or comments?
I do have some comments, just,
Okay, sure.
so I'll try to be as brief as possible. So I wanted to share some thoughts. I'm one of the board members that did not complete the survey. So I just wanted to share some results as perhaps why I did that. And as a board member, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I know I've spoken about this before, but I do continue to struggle with this policy. Not with the intent or what we hope to achieve, but, and I'll outline some things that I'm still trying to grasp and understand better. I do support it. I know that, again, that racism does exist and that we do have to work at eliminating it from all aspects of our community. So for me, as you know, the policy does still talk about racism, institutional racism, but in my mind, I'm wondering how much of an impact is that on the work that we do in the district. And so, you know, and then also, and that's just my kind of my question that I've been grasping with. And so when I look at the report, we look at the first part of that, which is kind of, I'm not, it's a summary, right, of what we hope to accomplish. And so I'm just like wondering, how do we know that we're an anti-racist institution? How do we know that we're transforming those systems that have privileged the few historically? How do we know we're using the racial equity lens and all those things that we said we would do, right? And then it brings up the 4 pillars, which I'm trying to figure out, are those the root causes of the inequities or the disparities between the groups? It seems to be, but I'm not clear on that. Okay, so on page 6 of the report, it does say under, and it's not numbered, but it's if you go 6 pages into it, under leadership and partnership pillar, bullet 3, it talks about the root causes are complex and varied, right? It talks about the underlying factors that led to past, present, and future inequities and injustices. And there's a lot of good information. The district is doing a lot of great things, a lot of great new practices, you know, just a lot of good changes, and, you know, a lot of, I commend the superintendent and the team for all the things that are happening to address. So is the evidence of compliance, I guess I'm not clear whether the evidence is that, are those the disparities or the root causes of the disparities? Because they're not identified in each of those areas. So for me, you know, that's a great statement or a comment that was on page 6 is that those root causes are complex and varied. So for me then, it's, if you look at it from more of a social research approach, right, when you do research, there's many variables that we study, right? And what a research project does is, or design is, it identifies those variables and then which ones are having the most impact or adverse impact, whatever impact on the problem. So of that, then you can determine whether or not it's what variable is actually impacting the problem. So in this case, it seems to me that the report shows that the inequities or the disparities or whatever's going on is all due 100% to racism, to systemic racism. And that's where I'm struggling in terms of understanding that. So, you know, as I mentioned, I don't know if it's possible to determine, do a proportionality of racism and systemic racism, right? How much of a percent is racism? Can you attribute the disparities in curriculum? Is it 25% racism, 50%, 75? I don't know if that's possible, but to say, or for me to understand, and perhaps I'm misunderstanding the report, seems to imply that everything is due to racism. And so I just, again, I struggle with understanding that when in the report it says that there are many root causes, curriculum, personnel, HR kind of things, you know, just other policies and practices that are in place. So again, I do support the policy, and as I recall, and I remind the board that when I did vote in support of it, I did have some reservations with some of the terminology and some of the sections of this policy. So I hate to be on the fence or to say I'm in it and out of it, but that's kind of where I continue to struggle with this policy. So I would, just to sum it up, I mean, so I just struggle with that, how much of the problems, the inequities, the disparities are due to racism, and how much are due to other variables that we've discussed in the past. So, so if we were able to look at those other variables, then perhaps we can really focus on what really is causing those disparities or these inequities in the school district. Because if we're going to say that it's all due to racism, I got to examine myself as a board member, because why am I going to be part of a board, a school district, that everything is attributed to racism as to why kids are not being successful in our district, right? So that puts me in a bind in terms of how I interpret how this policy is being implemented. So again, I would support perhaps reviewing this policy sooner rather than in 2 years. I know that WASDA has looked at their definition of equity and has begun to change that and focus on different areas, specifically sense of belonging. So perhaps we can start to maybe align ourselves with that and make it, you know, come from more of a universal approach rather than a race-based approach. And because I do struggle with making sense of the current data, the current report that we receive. So that's just my 2 cents and my thoughts, and I just wanted to, I'm not trying to spur a discussion or discourse or anything like that. I just wanted to express my thoughts and struggles that I'm currently having. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Raymond, it looked like you were referring to maybe some notes, or you'd written down your comments. Would you be willing to share those with the rest of the board?
I mean, it's on record.
Well, it's on record if we want to sit and watch the video of this meeting.
Yeah.
But the purpose of the monitoring report review is to capture the comments and thoughts of board members as they think about and reflect on the monitoring report itself.
Yeah.
And then us being able to take that input and have all of us have access to that input, and then maybe work on that as a way of updating that policy. But as one board member, I'd be interested in seeing, the thoughts that you had captured, because you weren't one of those that responded to the survey.
Yes.
I'd like to have access to your comments so that I don't have to watch the video for 2 hours to get to that point. And then maybe we could use those comments as part of a future discussion on this policy.
Sure, I can share. I won't share the entire because I left some things out that probably would be better said in a different setting. But I can share what I spoke, make the comments that I made with you
Okay.
today. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I was one of the other board members that didn't get the, missed the opportunity to respond, so I regret that. My comment is around, I think the overall assessment of the policy was pretty thorough and comprehensive. My feedback on that is that there was a comprehensive list of activities and things and strategies that are being used. And what was missing for me is the impact of all of those things that are being done. So we have these strategies, and here's the outcome, and here's the results. I think that would be a value add for me for future reports.
I would like to say again, just an additional comments is that we are doing, from the report, we are doing very well in curriculum development, adoption. I mean, there's a lot of good things that are happening, so I do commend, again, the superintendent and the team for all the good work that's going on. It's just, again, I won't refer back to my comments, but we'll stop there, thanks.
Okay, well, I would just have one other comment is you know, we do, it kind of echoes a little bit of what Martha said, we do have the survey as the vehicle for us to comment. And it's frustrating to me to have no comment, but then have come to a meeting and have a lengthy comment that could have been edited and put into the report. So I think in the future, if we're going to use the SurveyMonkey as a vehicle, let's use it. And if we're not going to use it, then let's not. But we can talk about some of these things in the retreat in terms of how we function. But my other frustration is that we keep revisiting this policy on a frequent basis, and I feel like we're going in circles on this policy. It does kind of have a cycle of review along with all the other policies. If it's really pressing that we need to review it, then we can move it up in the cycle. That's a board decision. That's not my decision, but it just seems like we keep coming back to the same issue and cycling through it over and over again, and I don't find that useful use of time. So again, I would respectfully request that when we do have comments, if we're going to use the SurveyMonkey, let's use it. So that's my comment. Thank you.
So I'm sorry, I just need to respond real quick. So we know that sometimes we're not able to, meet the timeline to answer those. So our surveys, so sometimes, if a board member doesn't answer, then perhaps we can extend the deadline or do something to accommodate for whatever maybe legitimate reason. So, but I guess what I'm also hearing that is that, well, I'm just going to say that as a board member, I believe I have the right and responsibility to discuss any matter, no matter if it's repeated or 100 times or 1,000 times. I have that as elected board member, elected official, responsibility on this board. I do have the right to bring up any topic and express my opinions or comments at any time. So I just wanted to make sure that I do continue to have that right and privilege as a board member.
I'd say absolutely you have that right.
Just a couple of quick thoughts. I think from a policy perspective, of course the answer is the interpretation of reasonable district progressing towards desired results. I think kind of everybody would say if this is what we're working off of course the answer would be correct. So we have a policy and then we have a philosophical questions that come before us. This SurveyMonkey thing that comes up time and time again, I think is one of, in my opinion, the failings of this particular model of policy governance is that it really forces people into a mode of sitting down and writing out their thoughts as opposed to having a conversation between 5 people who are elected to, to provide the governance for the district and provide advice, and counsel to the superintendent and his team. And I think there's just, there's got to be opportunity, there's got to be a middle ground or a way to make that work back and forth. I'm somewhat similar, I started to fill this out and I quit, and by the time I went back to it, it was too late. I've got a dozen or 15 different spots here in language that I would love to talk about all night long, but I know we're not going to, and that's fine. But I would also say that, this is a different type of policy. This isn't the same sort of thing as a lot of what goes on in the school district. And if you're paying any attention to the local or to the national conversation about public education, this is not settled science. This is not one of those things that's just one and done. This is going to be a long-term conversation in communities like ours all around the country. And so I don't think it's realistic to think that we aren't going to have the opportunity to, review it and discuss it further down the road. That's probably my only suggestion, is the longer I've thought about this, as far as whether that's a annual review or whether that should be twice a year. I think, I'd leave it to the board to decide if we want to actually make it a more structured conversation more often. I think that might be helpful for our group and for the district as a whole.
And it is a board policy that we can bring up any policy for review outside of the schedule. I mean, we can, if we want to bring a policy to the fore to discuss, or we feel that it needs updating, we have the opportunity to do that, so. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve this report on policy 0550. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, Barb, do you want to call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
I'm going to abstain.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
And President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, we do have a need for executive session this evening. It will be about 45 minutes. I think we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll meet in the
Library.
former professional library, and you will not need to bring your computers. We will have a Zoom set up in there.
Okay.
So. Yes.
So the basis for this executive session is actually in RCW 28A.405.230, and it's so that the board can entertain a discussion regarding the transfer of an administrator to a subordinate certificated position. Is a statute that requires an executive session. Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn to executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will start, well, we'll start in 5 minutes. Take a 5-minute break. This meeting is adjourned.